listening to somebody, and I'm always pulling from somebody, always. I'm always finding new information, always, even having coffee with somebody else, on click, and then something clicks, and you grab a hold of it. And I was thinking, this one guy made one statement that made me think hard about giving. He said that the harvest is always greater than the seed. Always. Would you agree? The only time it's not greater than the seed is if you have a drought, or if you don't take care of it, or if you don't water it, if you don't take care of the field, then it might not be greater than the seed. Then it might die. Then it might never ever flourish. It might never germinate. It might never do nothing. But if you truly seed something for the sake of a harvest, you truly have a greater harvest than the seed. See, the thing is, we are cheap-minded people. We really are, because I think, and I'm just being really radical about my talk right now, and this is just for example reasons, okay? So don't say, oh, Pastor George does that. I don't. I'm just kidding. I'm being a third person here or something. And so I think because I put my loonie in, that God's going to break the world loose through me. But the fact is that 30 and 60 and 100-fold from a loonie is not a whole lot, is it? So we expect a harvest, but we expect to only give a little, because we think we are able to take care of a small flower pot because we can water that and we might not forget about that. We might have enough faith for a loonie to rise up, but we don't have faith for $1,000 to rise up, or in anything. There's a problem here, because the more I volunteer, the more opportunity I get. Do I really want to volunteer more into what God is doing? Do I really want to be involved in what I'm even beyond money? Like, the more time I preach, the more I have to preach. The more I study, the more I got to study, because there is a harvest there. And so every time I say amen to some, there's more amens coming. And so are you ready to go beyond your imagination of who God has created you to be? Because if you give of yourself financially or physically or whatever you do, you're going to have more opportunity. It means that if you are volunteer, and he's going to tell his story, but if you volunteer a little bit, sooner or later more is required of you. Will you not agree? Mm-hmm. Because there's a harvest. And so there's the seed, the harvest will always precede the seed. It will always be more than the seed. Amen? And so I think we need to get out of the pot mentality. Flower pot, that is. We need to get out of that mentality of the pot and say, I'm going to start giving a little bit more, because what we do say, yeah, God's promises are true, but why is he not setting me free? Because he can only set you free so much from a loonie. I'm just giving an example. He can only set you free so much. Like, what's 100-fold of a loonie, guys? 100, there you go. Somebody knows. I knew what it was. I'm just testing you guys. But what is 100-fold of 1,000? Huh? Lots, that's right. And so we can get caught up in this idea of loony mentality, and we become loony. No, just kidding. But we become into this pot mentality, and when I heard this thing, that I myself want to be a sacrificial giver this year. I just want to. Why? It's because I'm reaching further than I ever have reached. I'm going to give myself more. I'm going to give myself to God more. I'm going to give my finances more. I'm going to be a sacrificial giver this year, because I want to reach beyond. Because if Jesus says this in Mark 4, if Jesus truly says this, if he really meant this, then it really is for me. It says, and this is after he was talking about the ground and some people wayside and so forth and thorns and so forth, he said, but he says then in verse 8 of Mark 4, it says, and another fell on good ground and yielded fruit. And it sprang up and it increased and brought forth some 30, some 60, and some 100-fold. There is no choice. When something falls in good ground, it has to come up. And it has to come up. So what are you allowing to fall into good ground? What are you allowing to be put into good ground? What are you doing with what you have so that you can see it? Don't put something in the ground if you're never going to water it, if you're going to forget about it. Don't do it out of pity. Don't do it. That's why the Bible said do it with great giving, do it with cheerful giving, because he wants you to water it. He wants you to flourish it. He wants you to believe in it. He wants you to have a thought in it. He doesn't want you to just go do it because you feel sorry because somebody cried on stage and cried for your money. He wants you to give because it's in your heart to give it, so that it actually can mature itself into the 30 to 60 and 100-fold. Amen? So no guilt-driven giving, but heart-given. Amen? Because guilt brings money to that one point, but it never ever brings a harvest because it never gets watered from your point of view because you give it out of an emotion attack instead of a heart attack. Sorry, no. But some hundredfold, and he says, but the very next verse we often forget to read, verse 9, it says, and he said to them, he that has ears, let him hear, and let him hear. Hear God today when you give. Listen to your heart today. Listen to God's heart today. Because I guarantee you, because I'm going to be doing this too, I'm guarantee you when you give today, that if you give it and you put faith into it, it has no choice but to be greater than the seed that you gave. It's the law of the Bible. It's the law of the Word. If you ever give of yourself again, know that God's going to only give as much as you want to harvest, because you know what? If you choose to give yourself to God into your volunteer base, into your heart, you're going to be utilized more of God every day because you did that. So with that, let's give.